Hello, everybody. Can I please get a show of hands of who are our veterans in this crowd? Can we please go? Thank you so much for your service. It was funny because when I was asked to speak here, I was told that plenty of the students here were probably only 4 during 9/11, which made me really think about how old I am. So, can I get a show of hands of who was actually 4 or at least 7 years old when 9/11 occurred? And the reason why I say 7 years old is because you remember, but you don't really understand unless, your parents explain to you what's going on. When this event happened, I was 18. I had just graduated from high school. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I had just decided to join the Navy. So I was on the DEP program, where I had to wait for, a while before I was allowed to go in. And I remember, during the summertime, I would get up and I would meet my recruiter, and we'd go run 5 miles to prepare me for boot camp. And that morning, I remember waking up, and it was my alarm that told me what was going on, because old school alarms, you could decide whether it was a buzzer or a radio. And I just, I don't like to be scared awake, so I chose the radio. So, the radio stations in Temecula, California tend to pull pranks on their listeners, and on April Fool's that year, they had convinced us all that daylight savings wasn't going to happen, so everybody showed up for work an hour late. So when I woke up and I heard them talking about, and the way they were talking about it was like an Orson Welles radio broadcast. They're like, "Oh my God, it's coming! It's hitting! It's another one! Can you see this?" And I wake up and I'm thinking, "Is this a joke? Why would anybody think this is funny? Who thinks this is funny? I don't think this is funny." And I kept listening, and I'm like, what radio station am I listening to? And then my little brother, because he was homesick that day, he comes running into my bedroom. He's like, "You need to see what's going on right now." And I got up and I ran into the living room, and I stood there and I was shocked. It didn't look like something you would see on the news. I'm sorry just thinking about it. When I went into my living room and I saw what was going on, it was the second plane hitting the second tower. It looked like some kind of movie, some kind of, action-packed movie that, Will Smith would be in. But it wasn't. It was the news. It was on CNN, it was on Fox, it was on all the news stations, every channel. And I'm standing there with my young brother, he was 14 years old, and he's crying, and he's like, "What is going on? Are we going to die?" And I said, I don't know what's going on. What really hurt me, what really tore me up, was watching these people plummet to their deaths. And I sit there and I think, what was going through their heads? Can you imagine being there in that moment thinking, do I want to die of a fiery death, or do I want to die flying? I went to my recruiter and I asked him, I said, "Are we going to war? I'm still going to join the Navy, but are we going to war?" And he said, "We don't know yet." Everybody was on high alert. People were, the bases were shutting down. They were shutting down airports. Schools were no longer in session. People were picking up their kids from school. It was just a terrifying moment because we didn't know when the next plane was going to hit and where. I can't ever erase those images out of my head. I can't erase the memory of being terrified for my friends who were in New York City at the time. I can't forget how many times I dialed those phone numbers over and over again to get an out of service or to get a busy signal. And waiting to hear if they lived, if they had been there. I know this happened a long time ago, but it doesn't feel like it happened a long time ago. It felt like it happened recently. And when this happened to our country, I felt like I was robbed of my childhood and my innocence, because from then on I never felt safe again. So, for those of you who don't remember or didn't understand at the time what was going on, I want to challenge you to think about what life would have been like had that never happened. What would life have been like? Would we still be on lockdown like we are? Would our airports be the way they are? Would we be terrified to go to school in case somebody decided they're, going to pull a terrorist act there? And for those of you who remember, I'm sorry that you have to remember that. If I had the power to erase that in memory, and we would never be afraid again, but I'm only one person. And so when you meet a veteran, just know that that person put their life on the line when they signed that contract, because they don't want you to be scared and they don't want you to feel unsafe anymore. So when you meet a veteran, please thank them for their service, and we will never forget. Thank you.